All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Just Noise podcast. We are really excited here. We've got episode 10 in the house, everybody. 10 episodes.
Ooh,
Let's get a little
10. We
clap going
made
in the
it.
chat here. Now, anyway, thank you for joining us. We love all of our subscribers, everybody who's following us. We love all of you. Thank you so much. So, as always, I've got my partner in crime, Logan Purdue. Logan, what's going on, my man?
Not a lot, just hanging out. Excited for tonight. This one's gonna be fun.
Well, hell yeah. So we want to introduce our other new partner in crime, Dylan Medina. He's going to be joining us in the future for episodes, and he's been around for a long time. Dylan, you want to give us a little bit of an intro for yourself? You've been in various bands throughout Des Moines history. Whatever you want to give us, man.
Yeah, what's up? I'm Dylan Medina. I've been out of Des Moines my whole life. Grew up going to shows here and grew up playing in bands. Mainly, I guess I'm probably known for playing in Display Case. I helped start the band off when we were all in high school together, and then left for a while, and then now I'm back in the band, and still two of the same guys are from the high school version of the band. So have had the honor of playing with so many bands in Des Moines and playing so many cool shows. Basically have played every venue from the Rock Shop to Woolies to Valair. So always love thinking about those and some venues that we don't have anymore. But some other bands I've been in, I was in Main State. I had a band called Too Far Off with some buddies. Yeah, I basically just know a ton of people in the scene because that's where I grew up. So that's kind of my social circle too. But outside of playing music, I love collecting music and music memorabilia. My kind of format of collecting music is I love collecting different genres, especially obscure ones. So I have a pretty insane crabcore collection going on. Uh, the
That's
weirder,
awesome.
the better.
That's cool. I didn't know that you did that like
Well,
specifically. That's pretty neat.
well, it only makes sense for you to join us in that regard because we love obscure music
Yeah.
here, just noise. So, I think one of the coolest things that we've talked about in recent years, especially for you, is your setup that you have. You have the original PlayStation 1 with the really high,
Right there.
the really high quality CD player, and you use that with the visualizer. It's so cool to see.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. I used to make some videos for it and play some different bands to kind of shout them out. But yeah, it took me forever. I have like 5 PlayStation 1s because only certain models had the visualizer part
Hmm.
of it. And that's what I really wanted. So I've got a stack of PS1s if anybody wants one, just hanging out. But yeah, this is kind of my setup right behind me. So it goes through this old CRT TV and has a converter so the audio goes through my surround sound system. So I don't use it as much as I should, but now that you brought it up, I have to use it a little more.
For sure, that'd be really cool for videos for like bands. Like you could make an old retro kind
Yeah.
of visualizer video for them. So,
I'll have to shout out those cyber grind bands. I feel like that
oh
fits
yeah,
their aesthetic.
Yeah.
Blind Equation, they're waiting for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's super
You have
cool,
to
dude. Yeah,
like
love it.
Nintendo band. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be a good episode to just talk about some old Nintendo Core and cyber grind.
Oh yeah. Well,
Agreed.
cool, man. We love all of your projects, all the people that have been involved. I mean, I've known you for years, and yeah, I actually had that moment today where I was in the shower thinking about stuff where it's like Dylan Medina was in Too Far Off, and I completely completely forgot about that until this morning. It was like, yeah, so shout out all those dudes. I love all of them. So
Oh yeah. Also, I'm very glad that you think about me in the shower too. That's
yeah,
a
I mean,
pretty
me
big
too, man. Like
award.
that happens more often than you think.
Oh my god.
Well, very cool, Dylan. If you want to start off this episode, we're switching formats a little bit here, everybody. For that's a regular for Just Noise. We're going to talk about some releases that we've enjoyed, whether they're new or whatever the category may be. But we're really excited to have Dylan join us. And why don't you just go ahead and take it away, my man?
Cool. Yeah, I just want to say thanks to these guys for letting me come on. I feel like we're always talking about music. I'm sure between the three of us, we've sold each other a bunch of CDs over the years and just talked about random bands that we find. So be cool. It's super cool being able to come on here and just chat about music. But yeah, for this one, we all kind of picked a release, and there wasn't really a format, but I thought it'd be cool to talk about a new release. And so I picked the Callous Boys' new album, I Don't Want to See You in Heaven. I thought they were such a cool band to talk about today because they're just so weird, especially for the time. Music is either kind of getting heavier or music is trying to infused with other genres like mixing in R&B and hip hop, but the Callous Boys is almost kind of throwing it back by mixing up some panic chord riffs, math core with the almost like MySpace core elements too. But yeah, so I wrote some stuff down for this. So, Callous Boys, they're based out of Atlanta, Georgia. They started releasing music in 2016, and this album, I Don't Want to See You in Heaven, is their third full-length album. I think their last album, I forget what it was called now, but I'm pretty sure that was an album that really put them on the map for a lot of people. For me, I actually found them through TikTok. I find a ton of bands through TikTok, but some guy was just talking about, he's like, yeah, I just go to their shows all the time and they're super weird and cool. So I was like, I'm down for that. So that's kind of how I got into them a couple years ago. But this new album is something else. For me, it definitely scratches an itch of just like that kind of weird music that I'm always looking for. I love stuff that just doesn't sound like anything else coming out, and these guys are definitely it for me. I really appreciate just how chaotic it is, but then those really clean produced, the vocals, some of the instrumentals in the background, just really that's my go-to.
Backstreet Boys parts, they're killer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Um, yeah, I agree with you. Like, I loved a lot of it too. Like, I listened to it two times all the way through. I like mathcore is like my favorite type of genre, like that really early, like Dillinger Escape Plan, like the Great Redneck Hope, that type of stuff is like my favorite stuff. And so like I loved those elements of it, and like it was weird for me that first listen through I didn't like a lot of it because for me it was like they were blending like pop with mathcore, and like so I was like I love that people, I don't know, you can do that because it's such a wild genre. And so like I didn't like it at first, but the more I listened to it the second time, I was like, okay, I really enjoy this. Like there are quite a few elements that's really cool, like the transitions, how they pull them off are really sweet. Like, but yeah, I just wanted a little bit more of that mathcore stuff. Like I love that stuff. But yeah, no, it's a really cool album. I like the concept that they kept throughout the whole thing, and like their songs, like I never had listened to them until you brought this up in the chat, Dylan. So actually, like that was really kind of where I found them, like a week or so ago. So that was kind of cool. But like I'd heard of them, and I just never had listened to them, and so like I don't know, I'm glad I did. I went back and listened to their first album today at work, and I really enjoyed that one. It kind of gave me a lot of like Every Time I Die vibes with like mathcore. It was great. Yeah, you should totally check it out. It's the one with like the pink cover with like the yellow like lizard thing on. I don't know what it is, but it's pretty
Something
crazy
weird.
looking. Yeah, yeah. But I'll quit blabbering.
uh, I was gonna say I have never listened to that band before either. They were one of those like in my mind, like one of those bands that got really popular all of a sudden for no reason, where they were like the "What the fuck's up, Denny's" kind of band, where it's like, okay, cool,
Yeah.
they're a meme core band, and I had never listened to them at all, and I am totally mistaken. I enjoyed the fuck out of it. There were so many different elements that the band presented. I mean, I felt like there were a lot of Devil Wears Prada vibes vocally. The guitars constantly were changing, whether they were knocked loose in my mind or Pierce the Veil inspired. There was so many different blendings of styles that were just so seamless, and I really enjoyed it. It was a solid release, and like I said, I stand corrected. Style Boys, awesome. That was a solid release. I was gonna say some of my favorite moments. There was a lot to digest. Whether we were talking about like them hitting mathcore parts, or being the next boy band coming out in 2025. Um, One part that made me laugh, I was working emails at work and listening to the full album. I could not be more erect when he said that, I was like, wait a minute, what was that? And I had to go back like 3 times. Like, no, he said he couldn't be more erect. That was literally what he just said. All right, cool. But my honorable mentions for that one, I really liked Full Moon Guidance and Electric. There were so many good ones. Like the names are hilarious.
The one like my first you were talking about the ridiculous like lyrics. So my first listen through the one song that I had to like restart. I did not write the name down, but it's the one where he's like talking about being a fish and like I had to like I got like halfway through it and kind of like caught what he was like talking about or in his lyrics, and I had to restart the song because I was like, this is for real." Like, and then I listened to it all the way through it. I was like, "This is fantastic." But yeah, I like the tears or tears on a Lambo leather, and the first song right out the gate, the second one I guess after the intro, that schizophrenia legacy like that for me like
With
really captured
the saxophone was really good in
Yeah.
that one. Yeah.
the whole track like for me captures what the whole album is going to be like, and I
Hmm.
thought that was really cool. Like it was just because it's a longer track, and most of them aren't that quite that long as you keep going, and like I don't know, I thought it was really cool, like a good opening track for the album.
They had a lot of really
Yeah.
cool elements going on. One thing that I thought was really notable that I enjoyed was the pitch shifting stuff that they were doing, where they all of a sudden are
Hmm.
playing super low. It's like, what the fuck just happened?
Exactly.
It's that like it catches you off guard. That's what you like about sporadic mathcore kind of stuff. So
Hmm.
this album kind of checked every box for me. As I was talking about, I was like, I'm going to give it 8 out of 10 myself. I'm still going to come back and revisit it, and I might really, really fall in love with it. They have some moments where I wouldn't say they sound like 12 Foot Ninja, but they do in the sense that they just like, we're going to swing all of a sudden and kind of shit like that.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's my takeaway. It was very good. Listen.
Yeah, I think when I first was listening through, like the first couple songs come out swinging so hard and so crazy. Like you guys mentioned, you get a taste of what the whole album's going to be like. But then I was kind of sitting there and I was like, how do you do this for a whole album? And also, how do I, as a listener, like really want to get through, 12 songs or whatever it is of this chaos? And, they kind of broke it up in the middle with it was Lemon and Body Horror for Birds,
Mm-hmm.
which were super different and like almost like kind of poppy R&B. Lemon I thought was cool. It was the one with the kind of like drum beat going on.
Had the
Um,
Blink 182 drum beat. That one caught me right away.
yeah.
Like I listened to that song.
That's the
I
one where
enjoyed
everybody's
that one
throwing
a lot.
bottles and stuff at him on stage, right? Sorry.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
Yeah,
so.
that was a
yeah.
cool video. Yeah.
Yeah, but like I felt like the ending, the whole song was good, but it just didn't pay off at the end for me. And that's kind of where I saw like their weakness a little bit is when they incorporate some of those like pop elements or some of those hip hop elements into their regular songs, it works on those tiny sections. But I think those two songs where they basically tried to do a whole song in that style, like to me, it was like, I see what you're doing, you're very close, but like you're just missing one piece of this. And it kind of helped the album kind of have this like
Hmm.
wave to it. But to me, it was just like these are not as well structured or well built as your regular
They feel
material. And
out of place. Not that they're not
Yeah.
good, but
yeah,
they don't.
And
exactly.
I
Mhm.
feel like they
Yeah.
might have worked better if they would have like uh maybe not quite as been as long of songs and not right back to back. Like if they would have put one maybe earlier in the album and one like as the ending of the album or something like that. I feel like maybe it would have worked a little bit better, but like I haven't dove into it lyrically to see if they like have a theme and like I don't know. I like
Yeah,
to do that type of shit with albums. That's my thing.
that's one to
I
definitely
like
look
to
at the
nerd
lyrics.
out. Yeah. Math core's the best for it. It's great.
Yeah, it
Sometimes it's
definitely
pointless and
like
sometimes it's great.
exactly. And like I get the direction that they're going for because this album reminds me a lot of like an I Set My Friends on Fire in 2025. They kind of had that same thing going on where there's the chaos, but then there's this just like random pop element to it. And I think back then it was a little easier to pull off that pop sound because they were doing it almost in like a making fun of it way, whereas the Callous Cowboys are almost trying to embrace it a little bit more. So it comes off, it's a little harder to pull it off when you're trying to make a good pop song as opposed to making like a parody of a pop song.
Because they're also not just sticking to pop, like they're hitting every stop. That's why I mentioned 12 Foot Ninja. They're hitting like salsa stuff that sounds like that. They're hitting swing, like they pull it
Yeah.
off to a T. It's one of those things where it's just like, I'm still listening to the same band, right? Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, I really enjoyed
They
it.
just did
It
that.
was solid.
I
But
think
yeah,
I'd go into that 8 out of 10 realm
yeah.
as well. I think you're right of like it might grow on me a little bit more with future listens, and maybe there's some things I'm kind of missing story wise, but
I think if you
yeah.
guys go back and listen to the earlier albums, like, because just
That's
doing that today for me, like, made me appreciate this one way more. Like, I will tell you that. Like, if you go back and do it, because, like, you hear elements of their sound, like, what it is now, but, like, there's not
how it
this, like,
evolved.
pop. Yeah, like, I don't know. It was at the beginning, and I don't know. It's really cool. I really enjoyed it.
It is also
Yeah, it
funny
was
that you
fun.
guys mentioned it, so I'm not taking the credit, but I did want to bring it up that their names a play on the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
That's really funny. You're just like,
Yeah.
oh, how did I not realize
It
that
you
before?
said that you said that in the chat the other day, and then I read that, and then I like said their name in my head, and I'm like, huh, that's pretty cool. It's like
Now I
4:30 in the
kept
morning
mixing it
too.
up. I kept messing it up in my head, and I was like, I'm gonna say it wrong when we start recording, but so far so good.
My pick is kind of a throwback. We're gonna go back to 2010 to Proprioception by And Hell Followed With. Um, I feel like this album is kind of a very not like talked about in like the realm of like big deathcore albums, and like I feel like it deserves every right of being like in that top five. Like, I mean, production wise, like everything, like it's awesome. Like it's a great album, like from the start to the finish, and like it's 13 songs, but like I don't ever feel like as a listener you get bored, and you're kind of, because every song is different enough, and they do things like tastefully to where it just, like I'm not a big guitar solo person, and so like they do that quite a bit in there in the album, but they do it tastefully to where it works well. Uh, they do the older things like building into breakdowns where they're using like clean parts to add the, I don't know, eeriness and element to it to build into it. Yeah. And it just, I don't know, it just works so well. And like to this day, everything still like holds up in this album, the production and everything. It's just, I think it's fantastic. Like, yeah,
The melodic
I don't know.
aspect is one for me that really stands out. I mean, like a lot of bands tried to add melody to it at that time, but um, listening to this release specifically, there was a couple tracks that stood out to me, but they really created that melodic atmosphere, whether they were just doing solos or they were doing leads to fit the part. Um, Listening to this release, you can see where bands like Chelsea Grin got their style on their early releases with like Elysium, where they have complete instrumentals and it's like a beautiful song. Um, yeah, and Hell Followed With was the kings of that originally. So
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was really impressed. I think it's kind of hard as music comes out because there's always so much happening. So it's really cool for me, especially to go back and listen to these albums I didn't hear when they came out originally, and see those inspirations of the stuff that I did listen to, like Chelsea Grin, like you mentioned. But yeah, man, this album was a blast. It just has everything that I love in heavy music. Like I'm a really big like. I'm heavy on like what the drums sound like and what they're playing. This album had gang shouts on it, which is
Mhm.
a instant win in my heart, especially for breakdowns and stuff.
Yeah. It had like
Um,
hardcore elements, everything. Like, it was
yeah,
wild.
I love
Earache
the
had a lot of the
vocals.
really cool. They had a lot of those cool bands that were blending the style early on. So, yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a sucker for the vocals too, because I think, right now we're kind of we have so many vocalists that I don't want to say they're going for the same thing, that as low as we can go or as high as we can go. And sometimes, the techniques just blend together. And this era of music that and this "In Hell Followed With" came out, the vocalists all were kind of doing their own thing. And like, no matter what level he was at or what he was doing, it's like, no, this is that band. I'm not going to mistake this for anybody else except for "In Hell Followed With."
They had a lot of really
Right.
cool single string parts too, where they're not djentin, but they're yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that stuff. Like I
Hmm.
love that type of stuff. Like I don't know, I tried to use a couple parts like that in Drowning Life every now and again. Like whether it stood out or not like that, I didn't care. Like that was where my influence was from that. But uh yeah, I don't know. Something for me like was like a lot of people don't know this album, like or this band a lot, I guess. That was something that I've always noticed, like when you bring this up, and like it just always drives me nuts that people don't know this album, and they're like, they love like All Shall Perish and Whitechapel and Suicide Silence and all those big albums, and like I get this one was like at the end of MySpace, those were in like, what, '04 to like '07, where all the big, those big albums came out, like Carnifex and all them, but like this album
Well,
was
even,
at the end of what?
I was gonna say even Domain came out pretty early on too. The album we're talking about is their
Yeah.
second album, so yeah.
Yeah. I have their first one here. There's a hardcore glare. Yes, I have this one.
There you
There
go.
we go.
Oh
Domain.
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah, most people know that album over knowing Proprioception. Brandon has my copy of Proprioception.
Or Domain. Well,
No.
and
Well, you
Domain.
have
We
both of them.
yeah
Damn, I
we've
forgot about that.
I was gonna say
Oh,
we've gone back and forth over the years, but I've got both of them. Don't
you
come for me.
do.
Nice.
You do. But Proprioception on the art, I thought was cool. I was listening to Patrick Hahn talk the other day, and so I got a couple like really cool tidbits listening to him talk. The art was done by God Machine, and he's done like Magic the Gathering cards, and he's done art
Oh
for
shit.
Sick.
Carnifex and Blind Guardian. He did the most recent And Hell Followed With album. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's kind of got the
Yeah,
same
one with the
play as
chick with
the
the yeah.
yeah. So it's
Yeah.
actually like a throwback to to Proprioception actually, because that album is kind of ties into the theme they were using on Proprioception. So I thought that was cool to listen to him talk about.
That's super cool.
Even
Uh,
the one that they had that was their most recent full length, it has the chick on it too. It's
yep.
kind of a throwback to that too. So
Yeah.
That's super
Uh,
cool.
and then another thing that he mentioned there was like the guy that did the production for this has the same guy that's done all the mixing and mastering for Within the Ruins since Invade.
Oh,
Uh,
that's pretty
really,
cool.
Joshua Wickman.
okay, that's really cool.
Yeah, I thought that was really neat. He's done every album except Creature for them. And then yeah, my biggest notable track is in Vastness I Transfigure. That's my
Hmm.
favorite track. There's a riff in the
Yeah.
middle of that where they match the vocals lyrically and everything to the guitar to the like it's just perfect. Like I don't know. The it's like I just love that track. It's my favorite all the way through, but that's probably my favorite track. But this album for me is like it's 10 out of 10. Like this is my number one like deathcore. Like I'm sorry, like it always will be over all of them. I don't care. This is my
That one
perfect like
and
deathcore
This
album.
Night is the Corners are my favorite too. Like they're
Yeah,
so the blend of them being fast deathcore and being melodic with the guitar work is just like,
hmm
dude, it's like I said earlier, it's original. It's very iconic. I'm sure people have done
Yeah.
it before, but this one was
yeah.
it catches your
It
ear
was done
immediately as
right.
soon as they start to harmonize. So yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like this night is the coroner's like everybody, if you heard that song, like that lyric at the end and that breakdown when it's like da 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 like that just single string stuff you were talking about they did like I don't know,
Hmm.
it was just so cool.
Yeah, I think their ability to put so much, like that we talked about the melodic parts of it, but to make it sound so good even by today's standards is pretty impressive. And yeah, the mixing, the mastering, the production of all of it hits so well still
Hmm.
today. I think the Greatest Deception, I think it's the closing track on the album. But man, the whole time I was like, this is such an epic way to end an album. And I was like, this would even just be a great closer live. Like I can kind of picture, like you've just been moshing or going crazy for this whole show. And it felt like the perfect way to close an album, which, I think some metal albums, that's something that kind of gets lost is, having that epic way to end or to close out an album. Yeah, yeah, and this really nails it, which I think, I don't even know. I think I would give it probably like an 8 out of 10 still, but definitely has room to move up from there just with more listens. But yeah, I mean every song is good. And then yeah, that the ability to start an album off right and end it right is just a big thing you don't get all the time. So yeah, it's a pretty impressive
Mara's
album.
a really cool intro. It catches your
Yeah, the
ear
way
right
it
from
just
the beginning.
builds up to you and just yeah, I don't know. I love the way you can't listen to This Night is the Corners without listening to Mara like lead into it. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, dude, they're a really cool band. It's been cool to see them evolve over the years. I mean, live, they're one of those bands that just they're ever evolving. No, so that I was going to use that as my segue. So for my pick that I had, it was not specific to anything. It was just kind of something that caught my ear here. This band's going to be celebrating their 20th anniversary here soon. My first introduction to them when I first started collecting CDs again as an adult, I bought a huge care package from this guy in Europe, and he sent me all of the Red Chord stuff and some other stuff that I don't recall right now, but he sent me the first two Through the Eyes of the Dead CDs, and I had never heard them before. And it was like, okay, let's check it out. And I started with Bloodlust, 2005, and never looked back. That band has every single one of their releases is consistent, but just starting with Bloodlust, yeah, shout out Through the Eyes of the Dead, 20 years of Bloodlust coming up here in, I think, September. Would love to go to New York and see it, but that's probably not going to happen. But
Wasn't it October 2000?
no, it was 2005. Not yeah,
Was
it's
it?
yeah,
Okay.
no. That'd be
I was wrong.
insane. The quality of that. So anyway, Bloodlust, phenomenal album front to back. Some of the craziest fast double bass work. Their breakdowns were super ahead of their time in that regard. They were really fast and precise, and they still to this day don't credit themselves as being deathcore. That was a dirty term at that time. Nobody wanted to be called
Oh.
deathcore. They thought it was not cool.
They were like at the forefront of it. Like, yeah.
Their very first release is The Scars of Ages. It's a 2003 EP. And it was still good then. They even say it in the credits on Discogs. There are no triggers used in the recording of this. Yeah,
That is
they're putting
awesome.
that badge right on the chest. So,
Yeah.
2005, yeah, they got signed to Prosthetic and they released their first album, Bloodlust. I love that front to back. Anybody that knows that band knows 2 inches from Main Artery is probably the first song that anybody knows from them. But like I said, front to back, it's just nothing but bangers. Personally, one of my favorites is Truest Shade of Crimson. That's not a new song from them, but that one just gets me going every time. They're they're just the kings, man. They write fast riffs. There's some riffs that on this album I'm listening to is like that's Bring Me the Horizon, but it's not because that came after. But yeah, dude, that's my pick. That was a phenomenal album. I still listen to it to this day. So
Yeah, I felt like I mean, I had not heard Through the Eyes of the Dead before, so I appreciate you putting me on. I definitely need to listen to Bloodlust more, but also check out their whole discography after this. But yeah, this album was just relentless. Like it's so fast, so heavy, in such a great way. Sometimes I can get a little lost if everything's too fast or, if it's a little too much in one direction, but they really balance it out well that you can listen to a whole album. You could listen to them for a long time and still be hearing things you didn't catch before. I'm trying to think. Bringer of Truth. That was, I think, one of my favorite breakdowns. It was
mhm.
the I Hope You Choke on Blood breakdown. I think it yet again had some gang shouts or something, but yeah, I'm a sucker for a really good classic breakdown that you feel
Mhm.
like I could be, partying to this in 20 years still. uh, I will say I have one gripe with this album, and I think I've seen a lot of bands go back and remaster or retouch up some stuff, but I could not get into the snare tone. Uh,
Really?
oh my gosh, I don't know. Maybe it just needs to grow on me, but something about it, and especially with how much it's blasting, I was just like, I don't know. This is the one thing that doesn't sound right to me, but
It's in a weird like tuning because it's not quite high like traditional like deathcore kind of stuff. So I can kind of see that, but yeah, the drums are just like you said, they're relentless. And his
yeah.
the stuff that he does with the bell is always what gets me. Where it's like, whoa, that was I've never heard anything before that where somebody was really just like not just blasting on the bell, but using it for accent purposes. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I this album for me is definitely like uh it's a big nostalgia album. Like I remember when this came out, my best friend at the time, the yeah, he showed me 2 inches from the main artery and like yeah, I've listened to that song for years. Like since then, like it, it's just such a good album. Yeah, the you guys are talking about the drums. It to me they've always like it just sounds like war drums, like just there's massive, like they're just so big it sounds like he's just got like 30 inch, like just massive kick drums or something, just it's just I don't know. It's just such a I guess it's to listen to it now, it's like such a throwback, but then you hear all these modern bands and like some of them you hear touches of the of Through the Eyes of the Dead in some of these modern bands. Like one band that I hear their sound in a lot is the Queen Guillotine, if you guys have ever listened to them. uh they have a lot of that Through the Eyes of the Dead sound, I feel like, but it's more modernized. I don't know, that's one of my favorites, like they've got that touch. But yeah, they were just ahead of everybody, I felt like, on everything. I mean, yeah, they didn't like the deathcore label, but that's what they were. Like, let's face it. Come on.
they claim that they were a death metal band and they like were inspired by
Death metal.
hardcore, but it's like, dude, just
That's what deathcore is.
like I
Oh
said,
my
they just keep getting better throughout the years. It's a shame because oh my God, Justin's the dude's
Malice is.
name.
You need to
I was
listen
gonna
to
say
Malice, Dylan.
yes. You just
yeah.
need to
Like,
keep going, my friend, because
Yeah, I
yeah,
will.
it gets
in all
better.
honesty, there's no
Skepsis
bad
isn't
albums.
Skepsis one of them
Yep,
or
there's no
something like
bad
yeah.
albums. There's Bloodlust, Malice, Skepsis, and then Dismiss is the newest one that they came back with. And
Okay.
while I got a moment, I just want to shout out my homie fucking Mike Rainey, who plays drums for Through the Eyes ever since Skepsis came out. He's
Oh,
fucking
cool.
beast. A lot of people say that that's their favorite album because they kind of went back to their death metal roots. It's all good. All of whole discography front to backs, and no album's the same because the first two albums have completely different lineups other than the bass player and the founding guitar players. So totally worth your time.
Definitely. Yeah, I commit to listening to more Through the Eyes of the Dead and catching up on what I missed out on.
The snare tone
Um,
gets better.
thank God.
It does.
I'll start a GoFundMe to remaster just that snare tone. But then I'll probably like the old version better than the remaster anyways.
They did
But
Right.
a remaster recently of not this album that we're talking about, but I mentioned Scars of the Ages, which was their first EP. And then they did another one same year as Bloodlust. It was a split. I think it's something of Annihilation. Anyway, they some label did a repress of those two EPs together, and they were remixed and remastered by Jamie King, who did the original stuff. So that's on vinyl if you two, which I know your vinyl heads want to look into. So
got my whole collection right here.
I don't collect vinyl.
Yeah, I think I appreciated what you guys were talking about of hearing those influences nowadays. For me, as somebody that missed out on a lot of the OG deathcore, I definitely was there, but I was not as heavy into it, and especially finding some of the bands that weren't as popular or mainstream. So it's super cool because I love this deathcore and MySpace core revival that we're having currently. But I appreciate having, the input of other people like you guys, where I'm now listening to more of what influenced what's happening now. So, and then, like you said, hearing what even influenced them of those death metal influences, the hardcore influences. So, yeah, really fun time in metal right now, I'd have to say.
We
I
love to
would
explore
definitely
that.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I love the revival. Like, I don't care. A lot of people hate it, but I love it. I think it's awesome. I don't care. I I hate how music is getting to where it's like so overproduced to where like it's just I don't know, it's not fun to me to listen to anymore. Like it's even getting into like hardcore and like beatdown and like that's always been kind of like had that gritty sound and like even those
You leave
bands are
Throne
starting to get
alone. No.
hey, I dig it. It's cool,
Me
but
too.
like yeah, yeah. No. But like I don't know. Like I miss that rawness of how bands sounded back then, and maybe that's just me being old, I don't know, but I don't care. Like that's what I miss, and now like you have these guys, and like some of these bands are like these, and what's cool about it is some of these bands are like the oldest member is 17 years old and the youngest is 14. Like Victim Blamed is like the old, yeah, I think the oldest member of that band is 16 or
That's
17. Like it's
insane.
fucking
That's
wild. And
wild.
then if you listen to their stuff, it's like it's fucking good. Like, you know, I don't, but it's like that throwback, but it's still modern production,
It's
you
like
know.
their dads are listening to the first wave of deathcore and they're like, "Oh, we can do this." Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and then like, but then you have the other bands where it's guys that are like, you know, more of our age that are like, you know, like we grew up in it and now they're like, they're right, they're making the bands and stuff too. And like, that's cool too, because like you hear their influence, like where like they actually have the influence and we're there to see all of those bands. And so like, it's cool to hear like those different bands coming out too. Yeah. I'm for it. I love it. I hope it brings like we get into some of the other weirder MySpace genres coming back. Like that's
Cyber grind, baby. That's where I'm at. Yeah, and like I've been thinking back, listening to some of that older first gen deathcore and stuff, and something that I've loved about that era of music is how weird it was. Every band sounded so unique because
yes.
I think looking back, the internet was like not quite as accessible. It was just the beginning. So many people weren't influenced by what was popular right now. They were kind of bringing their own influences and just putting it online. And then it would start this wave of, a band that has a lot of like death metal influence versus a band that has more other genres influenced. And I think we're like that's where we're getting back to now is yeah, no matter the age or if they've been in bands before, they're just kind of like, you know what, I just want to make heavy music or I just want to make something. And I think it's kind of become more it's become easier again to just throw music online, and you can record so much easier again. So it is easy to be like, you know what, I just want to track some riffs with some friends and see what happens. And I might throw a blown out 808 in the background because why not? And
100%.
you can just put it up and it doesn't matter if it blows up or not. But yeah, super cool.
It's definitely a different vibe for like, when you're younger, you're not as, or at least when we were younger, obviously we had MySpace and we had the internet, but we didn't have the access that we do to everything that we do in this modern age. As soon as a band releases a single that we like, me and Logan are like, yo, have you listened to this yet? It's like it came out like 30 minutes ago kind of thing, as opposed to where in the past it was one of those things where it's like, hey man, like I've got this band on my MP3, like you should really check this out. And then you're like, oh, well, I got to go find them and kind of thing. So it's cool to see the resurgence in that regard because it's so easy for modern musicians to have influences, whether they realize it or not, just because they've heard things that are easily attainable to them. So that's pretty cool. So we're getting about to our time here tonight, everybody. Thank you again for joining us for the Just Noise podcast with the boys, the Just Noise boys. So before we close out tonight, Dylan, you got any final thoughts? Anything you want to plug before we go?
Yeah, this was a blast. I appreciate being able to come on here and actually just chat in person. We're always in the chats messaging each other, but there's something different about just being able to listen to some music and come and talk about it together. So also what a great selection of music, both In Hell Followed With and Through the Eyes of the Dead. Well, In Hell Followed With I've listened to before, but Through the Eyes of the Dead was new to me. So always appreciate being exposed to some new music. But yeah, I'm excited to keep talking with you guys, and I'm sure we'll be around again. if you know me, you know I'm in the band Display Case. We do have a new song coming out here on June 6th. This last year, we've been kind of just recording music that is whatever we want to do. So, these three songs that we recorded are some of the most different stuff we've ever done. This one's very pop or like dancey almost, which is super weird, but has been super fun to put into the set list. And yeah, the new song's called Hot Club Dance Mix Volume 7. That'll be streaming.
You're gonna
If you
remember
love
that
old
one.
long names, yeah, don't forget the
Yeah.
name.
Put some
But
respect on that name.
yeah. But yeah, otherwise,
That's awesome.
yeah, I had a blast, and feel free to check out my band Display Case if you ever.
Fuck yeah, dude. Logan, you got anything before we close out, my friend?
Not off the top of my head. Listen to Display Case. Listen to the Emblem Faction. Support these guys.
Yeah.
Help the Emblem Faction find a drummer. Yeah. Eat your shredded wheat.
Well, I got a couple things real quick myself. So I don't usually brag. I ain't trying to brag, but so I mentioned it on the last podcast, Insincerity. My old first band is back. We've got a new name. We will have, by the time this podcast comes out, our first single will be out on the 4th of June. So check out Crushed Emeralds. Let us know. Give us a like. Give us a follow. One other thing, I am also helping some buddies of mine in Vapid Soul run a show on June 8th. So if you don't have anything going on a Sunday, come hang out with us. There's a cool lineup. Abstract Forms is going to headline. These Fading Visions, Manhattan Blockade, and 12 Gauge Autopsy is going to open. So love all the support that you guys give us. Aside from that, thank you so much for listening to the Just Annoyed podcast. Like, subscribe. Any comments of anything you want to talk about, somebody who should be on the show, any genres, anything. We love the interaction. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This has been episode 10. It's episode 10, everybody. Fuck yeah.
Episode 10.
We made it.
So thank you, everybody, again for joining us. Come back next week. We're always going to be here. Just Noise.